Welcome to Subscription Prescription, the podcast where you get the information you need to scale your subscription program. Hello and welcome to another episode of Subscription Prescription, the podcast where we help you figure out everything related to D2C subscriptions. I'm incredibly excited to be joined by today's guest, Alyssa Wallace. She's one of my oldest friends on Twitter. She's an absolute retention genius, and I'm really excited to have her on here. Alyssa, thanks for coming on the show.
Oh my God, I love the flattery. Thanks, Matthew. I'm excited to be here, honestly.
Well, it's so funny when I invited you to come on, you're like, really? You want to interview me? And I'm like,
yeah, me?
You're smart.
Did you get the right username?
You know stuff. For those of you that are not following Alyssa, look up Alyssa Jean on Twitter. I will be referencing some of her recent tweets because I just really do love the way you talk about retention, the way you break things down, what people should be focusing on. So for me, it was a no-brainer to invite you on the show. So for everybody listening or reading at home, would you mind taking a moment to introduce yourself a little bit, what you're up to, what you're working on, mention Capture Box or any other clients you want?
Yeah, for sure. I've been in the space since 2020 just by happenstance. Like, you know how most people say they're an actual artist versus a self-taught artist? Definitely self-taught, like thrown into the fire to fail and fail and fail and continue to fail. That hasn't stopped. But fortunately, the failing has come with its perks over the years. And I summed up all the brands that I've worked with since then. It was probably like 20 plus different brands and 3 or 4 different agencies. And starting from beginning of last year, I think I've finally made my home working at Capture Box, which is an amazing retention agency. Having worked with a few agencies before and having talked with a few people who work at agencies now, I'm so grateful to have met a team that lives by their word. You know what I mean? Are truly in service of their clients. So little shout out to them because I admire and respect them a lot. And then on the side, I work with Breeze, doing a lot of their subscription management and more on the lifecycle flow side versus my friend works on the campaigns. So if you hype them up, which I think you have in a previous post, and I was like, Bella, your flowers. This is all you.
That wasn't me. I did see that one recently. Who was that? Oh, it was Jimmy Kim was breaking the flows down.
Oh, Jimmy was.
Campaign. Yeah, the campaign.
Yeah.
No, we're going to be talking about flows, right? Because when we talk a ton about subscription stuff, right? Like flows are kind of where it's at. So you do have a ton of experience. And I think I was just reading your pin post too, where you're just talking about some of your personal growth and stuff like that. And I think that's one of the things I love about the space we're in is that there's so many self-made people that have failed and started to figure it out. But it's about people that show up to work over and over again. Those are the people that I like to be around. So
yeah,
definitely appreciate that. So
I love the folks that actually share what their failures are and mistakes are, because it fortunately stands out on your Twitter page when you're scrolling. So I think it's a win-win situation there.
It is. Okay, cool. So one of the things I kind of want to start talking to you about is you had a tweet about a month ago. We were talking about lost revenue for brands, where you're seeing mistakes when you go to audit, somebody who's say they're doing 100, 200K a month, maybe they're getting to 300, 400, 500K a month, and they're leaving money on the table. Would you mind walking through some of the things that you see in the lens of what brands should be worrying about or focusing on when it comes to retention, flows, revenue that they're just leaving on the table by not doing those things?
Yeah. And my experience is obviously biased to a small group of people. And that's generally the mark that they're at 200 to 300K. And they're really bootstrapped, maybe 2 or 3 or 4 people on the team max. So very little time, very little resources. And when I'm thinking from that perspective, I think first and foremost is setting up your account right. I know it is super simple, but there's so many brands are accounts that I go in and you can see in their campaign history, they're sending maybe 3 or 4 campaigns during a promotional period, have one welcome email or one post-purchase email, maybe not even a post-purchase email. It's normally one welcome email. and they do nothing else. And it's only during their promotional periods that they send those 3 campaigns. So when I'm talking specifically towards them, it's one, your account. I'll look at the notifications. It's like, you haven't set up the branded domain. And I'm like, okay, is your like, what is not connected then?
So you're looking at the Klaviyo notifications, what Klaviyo keeps bugging them to do that they're not doing.
Yeah. I'm like, let's follow the steps real quick. It'll take less than a day to get it set up. And then from there, I'm looking first at their pop-up. They don't have a huge list. So my priority, although it is important, is building out the flows. I do want to make the first impression on site the best that it can be for whatever traffic they end up pulling in, or even not pulling in. It's just organic. So I'm focused on the pop-up first, and then the basic flows, which you could scroll on Twitter for 5 minutes and you'll see someone post about the basic flows. So that's an easy resource to get to. But looking at the
what's one specific one that you think it's like? I mean, if maybe they're all being underserved, but maybe pick one and give us your take on what people should be doing with it. Is it the welcome flow? Is it banded cart?
In this case, I think it is the welcome flow.
Okay. What should brands be doing to make that a little bit better or different? Or just spend time on it?
Just spend more than copying and pasting a Klaviyo template onto it and adding your branding to it. Maybe even just do a plain text. Like if you're really strapped on resources and time, literally write a plain text from your voice welcoming in people and sharing what they can get out of being part of this community. As if you're meeting someone at a networking event, you know, and you actually want to be in a relationship with them, friendship or whatever. I don't know. Actually make it personal. And I think plain texts are really undervalued. I saw a post the other day that was saying like, oh, just an absolutist comment that graphic emails were better than plain text emails. Like, why are brands doing text emails? And I'm like, oh, I wonder if you've tested it yet.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I remember a fairly well-established brand here in Utah. One of their head of retentions was telling me that they had tested like a plain text email at like midnight because they were texting time as well.
Wow.
So the plain text email at midnight was one of their best performing like emails in certain flows. So it's like, okay, wow, there you go. You don't find that without testing, right? Without trying different things. So.
Yeah, it's like people are extremists on either side. I think when at any brand at any stage, looking at everything with a grain of salt, and your brand is uniquely yours, as is everyone else's brand is uniquely theirs. So everything should be tested. Like you can always, this is going off on a slight tangent, but it's an inner monologue that I've had in my head in terms of creating things out of historical data, or if you don't have historical data, then relying on brand, or like if a conclusion to a decision is because it's just brand, because some people just create things because it's on brand versus it needs to be successful versus unsuccessful, if that makes any sense.
Oh, it makes 100% sense. So you're talking about, because I've been in those discussions where companies like, hey, we can't do this because it's not on brand, even though that is the thing that would drive revenue.
Yeah.
And I don't mean like doing some horrible black hat thing. I mean like, hey, we don't want to send a follow-up email because that sounds nagging. That's not on brand. It's like sending a follow-up email is what's going to make you money, right? I'd love for you to react to this then, because there was a branding agency here in Utah, Creatively, shout out Damien, who said on a panel once, until you're at like 100 million in annual revenue, you're not a brand. So stop thinking about, he says, stop worrying about what's on brand or not on brand. You don't have a brand until you're at 100 million or more.
Whoa.
What do you think about that? I might be paraphrasing a little bit of what he said, but it has stuck with me for like several years.
No, it's a really interesting perspective, but at the same time, I want to play devil's advocate and be like, yeah, maybe only when you reach that threshold can you really call yourself a brand, but all those steps that it took to get there are adding to your character and your brand over time.
I think what he was getting at is when you worry too much about your character, you don't, it's like you haven't grown up yet. So it's like a teenager worrying about whether they're going to be a moral person or not. It's like, hey, like,
that's true.
Like I'm thinking about my teenager. It's like, I'm not sure you need to worry too much about making the perfect decision every time. You're going to grow up and make mistakes. I think that's kind of more of the vein of what he's saying, which is why I was thinking about it. It's like if a brand's
Yeah.
doing 20 million in revenue and they don't want to do WhatsApp because WhatsApp feels like it's not on brand. It's like, I don't know if it might be another 5 million in revenue for your business if you do it.
Yeah. The phrase that keeps coming in my head while you're saying that is strong convictions loosely held. Like, yeah, there is the brand and you're aware of it, but I do agree that it's not a hill to die on 95% of the time.
Mm-hmm. It's really interesting. Strong convictions loosely held. I've heard that before. But that really does apply.
Yeah, I think it was Tom Bilyeu or someone who said it. I could be getting that wrong, but that really stuck with me in terms of like every single day as a person in my position, I'm constantly thinking like, is this a hill that I need to die on today? Like,
right.
do I? And oftentimes it's a no.
It's funny. I have to show this to my wife who, I have two stepkids, and she says that all the time. She's like, is this the hill you want to die on? And it's actually a really great question to ask yourself because you're like, do I want to risk damaging my relationship with my kids over this one thing? Okay, when you think about it like that, all right, I'm not going to worry.
Yeah. It gets you thinking introspectively is if your decision is nearly as important as it felt like in the first second.
Right.
And I think brands and people who work in general need to keep asking themselves that on a daily basis. Like, is this moving the needle forward or is this ruining a relationship irreparably where you can't even improve incrementally over time?
Right. So, Alyssa, a question I like asking a lot of retention marketers, and we were chatting a little bit about this before we started recording, was this idea of like retention teams and team composition. So I'm kind of curious what you've seen in your experience, what's working or not working when you have necessarily retention teams, acquisition teams, like say at Breeze or others. Is there a lot of cross-pollination between those groups? And what do you think is the best makeup for a retention team or retention leader? Where should they be sitting? Should they be involved in or not?
Yeah, I think I'm gonna bite myself in the ass here because because I did not learn what I do by also understanding what happens like very specifically on the acquisition side. So these terms on like cost of acquisition and blah blah blah. I did not learn, which is why I think the baseline is imperative that the quote unquote retention team is in conversation and collaboration with the acquisition team so they could cross pollinate education because it is so interconnected over time. And I feel like if they are integrated 100%, you could have a positive feedback loop of what's working. And maybe at some point you could discern. I was talking to Sarah about this a couple weeks ago, that the people who come in from like an acquisition offer are completely different, might have different values, different buying behavior than someone who comes in on site. That is often the person that I'm interacting with. So there's a lot of like opportunities to discern and improve, I think, the way that you talk to people by understanding both sides and being in communication with both sides.
It's interesting. So I'm not sure when this episode might come out right after BFCM stuff happens, but that's what I was thinking of. So do you think about it in terms of like with brands that you work with, hey, here's a cold offer or maybe an offer we're trying to use in ads and acquisition versus here's an offer that we're going to put in our email list? Or is it all just, hey, it's 50% off site wide. We're just trying to get people to the website however we can?
Well, on the agency side, I don't think I've worked with any brands where we're communicating with their acquisition team. So I don't know what offers. I think for the most part, what I can infer from the conversations, but it wasn't explicitly said, was that they were relying on whatever we strategized in terms of offers and
Interesting.
timeline. Which is very odd now that I'm like on the Breeze side where there's more visibility on it.
Yeah. Can you imagine if like, Nick and you're coming up with offers on the retention side and nobody's worrying about what the ad team is doing?
Yeah, it doesn't.
It sounds kind of insane if you say it out loud, but you're right.
No, it is insane. I think, again, like what I can infer is that they took our offer and put it on ads. Like they would just reflect whatever site wide. I don't think
Right.
they did any testing specifically.
Yeah, we've gotten some where they're like, hey, this is what we're doing. Like, hey, we're going to run this offer site wide. This is like an intro offer. We have a couple of new products we're trying to prioritize. And so then it's like, hey, we want to build offers or structures. And that's some of the things we're working on, right? It's like inside the customer portal, we want to highlight these 2 or 3 products and we're being really aggressive trying to get people to try them. Or, hey, there's a 50% off site wide. So we want to be careful that our subscribers don't see that. Like, or
Yeah.
if they do see it, we want to put that in the cancel flow so they'll stay and they'll just opt in for the offer or something like that.
That's when subscription gets a little bit more complicated because, like, one, the site wide offer is going to be there. It's going to be visible if anyone lands on site. And then 2, but we also want subscribers to feel more valued. And it's just really difficult because I don't think any brand wants them to stack the subscription exclusive offer with the site wide offer. So it's always an either or situation. I'm like, oh God, this feels like, I don't know, politics.
Oh, it is.
Gonna, I don't know why it's that complicated.
Well, I think it's complicated because they want to have their cake. I mean, we all want to have our cake and eat it too, right? We want a really aggressive acquisition offer that's going to get us new customers, but we don't want subscribers to cancel to take that offer because we want to protect margin. And you can do that in a lot of instances, but it's complicated. It becomes complicated. Like you have to come up with separate offers, and most brands don't have the bandwidth to develop that many different types of offers for different segments. Like it's not really widely done. It's more about the content and the creative and
it's more messaging.
Yeah, right.
Like what's the word I'm trying to find? Like making the impression so that they're thinking in their head, oh, like let's say for, the upcoming BFCM season pod site, there's like a stock up and save type deal. Just stereotypically for a lot of subscription brands, I see that. But on the back end for subscriptions, they get like, I don't know, 10% on, like 10% off of their next order. And then the messaging in terms of campaigns to their specific segments are just going to have to be very persuasive, where like the site-wide offer is positioned as a, get extra for your gatherings, not necessarily like replace your current subscription, because you're going to want to keep your own and then share the rest. But there's so much that's out of my control, and I don't know if the control ever expands the more years you've been in the business.
I don't know. I'm not sure you do, other than like maybe if you have good ideas and stuff, people want to start listening to you, or if you're working in a place where they want to listen to your ideas. But there's certainly always like there can be a real top-down vibe, or depending on who's like running acquisition, can be like they can be pushing that downstream to the rest of the company, like what offers are happening or not. I think something that we've been trying with one of our clients is just like, hey, this is what we're running. We don't necessarily want to do anything specific for subscribers. And we're like, okay, but you do want to promote these other products. They're like, yeah. It's like, okay, well, we're going to work on some subscriber specific offers around those products. And then it's just like, oh, okay. Like, and you can offer them up to this just percentage off. It's like, okay, so we're just going to try to cross sell into existing subscribers and hope they see more value in that than in the current product they have, and going to cancel to go buy that again. We're just stock up on a cheaper, buying that one thing 3 times on the site because it's cheaper right now. So
or maybe they swap their subscription. Who knows? I'm curious on your end, because I'm looking at bundles or products that specifically churn, but all of the post-purchase nurtures incentivizing swapping the products. So I'm still figuring out how you even measure the success of that specific initiative if the first action intended is to cancel.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good question. I do think it does come back to like LTV, right? Like if people don't cancel, they swap. And, you can track swap actions on most platforms, like to see the number of actions that it's happened. So like we've tracked that as a KPI before, but it is really about like just lack of churn. And usually I would assume swaps are done in instances where there's either flavor fatigue or some kind of like product fatigue. Maybe you use something for a month or two and you're kind of like, that's enough. I don't need this every day. So try to push or promote them to try something else. Yeah, it's definitely, yeah, I would just really look at it from a churn perspective. If you can get somebody to swap, the subscription stays active. Otherwise, people cancel and maybe they go create a new one. And that's harder to pay good attention to. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, really chose the most complicated niche to get interested in.
It's pretty fun though. I don't know. Sometimes I feel like acquisition is way worse because at least a lot of the attribution questions I think are a little bit easier on the retention side because you're usually dealing with like somewhat first party data most of the time as opposed to ads and targeting and retargeting and feeding the algorithm and stuff like that. Because I've worked on the acquisition side a little bit in like B2B SaaS and it's,
yeah,
oh my goodness, it was such a huge pain in the ass just trying to, yeah. Anyway, so I'm curious. Okay, so question for you: what's something that's you felt like has worked really well at Breeze as from a retention standpoint? Either improving like repurchase rates or subscriber retention. Is there like a flow or an action or an offer that you can share that's worked since you guys have been working them?
Yeah, the high level is that simple oftentimes is more successful, hence why I keep talking about it over and over again, because we always start from like the most complicated idea. I think when you're in a brainstorming session, but at the end, when we end up doing the more complicated idea, and this is getting very like vague, I'll get into specifics soon. The result is like just as complicated. So just as like a specific example, when I first started and didn't know anything about subscription, I was hell bent on thinking about saving anyone who tried to cancel. And when I was looking at other brands who are doing their post cancellation treatments, just trying to like up the offer to get them in, and I'm just thinking from a consumer perspective, and I'm hoping like in this specific scenario, my lack of knowledge is actually doing better for me than having more knowledge. I'm thinking getting a bigger offer does not address the concern at all. And honestly, even if it was like I subscribe to very few products, but I know I'm very emotionally driven. And if I see someone from their team taking like a little bit of extra effort in explaining things to me and showing their gratitude towards me, regardless if I want the subscription, I probably buy it again. Just because like I'm emotionally driven by those things. So the first initiative that I ever got to implement with Breeze was the save cancellation treatment videos. And I convinced Nick to make videos for every cancellation reason, really explaining all the perspectives and making sure that they're taken care of. And fortunately, like we have the customer support team to support that. They're really responsive. I think at the time they were responding within the day. So it would be another thing like with a brand who didn't invest anything in that area of the business. I don't think it would be as strong.
Right.
But in this case, it was.
Yeah, I love that because the funny thing is, as you're talking about going that little extra mile and showing some gratitude, it made me think of that's why those founder videos do so well on cancellation flows.
Yeah, they do.
And that was the example that you used. And so that it's really so you guys made one for you've made individual ones for the different cancellation reasons. And part of that's because how Stay, I think, is structured on their cancel flow, because you don't embed one on the first step, but you can embed one on individual like cancellation offers, right?
Yeah, for the treatment
structures. Yeah, for the treatment.
Yeah. The customization is kind of limited, but like that alone, adding the videos, I think at the time, and someone will have to call me out on this because it was a long time ago. It was like beginning of last year. I think it went from 10 to 15% save rate, which in Breeze's case with how many subscriptions that they have.
It's massive.
It's a lot.
Yeah. It's massive.
It's a lot of
Yeah,
things.
we've seen brands go from like 5 to 15%. We had one that went from like 10 to 23%. Like, yeah. So the video stuff, that's what, yeah, it's funny. It's a soapbox I'm constantly jumping up on.
Yeah, and it's
Stuff. Right.
simple. It's simple. You don't even have to like do a whole fancy setup or whatever. Just like go on a walk and do a selfie take of, I saw this come up on my notifications, guys. What's going on? I'm happy to help. Like
I love that. I love
it
that.
could
That's
be
fun.
that.
That's very fun. Yeah. Yeah. We had one where a supplement brand, the founder was just walking in his kitchen, just walking around the island in his kitchen, just kind of talking about why he started the product, whatever. It was very, very simply shot, but it performed really, really well.
It's underrated across the board. Any brand can make more money from those founder videos, from like plain text from the founders, literally anything. Even I remember last year, another take on something that people were overthinking about, like the whole Mother's Day, Father's Day trend of being like, oh, you could pause notifications during this time just to be extra sensitive, which is like really considerate. But I think we overcomplicate and overthink a situation when people like just imagining being in that situation. I don't want to be reminded of it, but there are other ways to redirect attention. And in this case, Corbin is like the speaker of all of our email campaigns, especially plain text campaigns. People know him as like the brand manager. His voice is literally everywhere. But his mom actually consumes Breeze, like loves Breeze. So on Mother's Day, he got his mom to talk. And that was the full campaign. Just whatever she wanted to talk about that day. And it went off. And then on Father's Day, like lo and behold, Nick is a new father. So he's talking about his experience adjusting to it. And I think it speaks to our customers naturally because a lot of them are parents.
So interesting. Usually a lot of these email conversations, I feel go technical, but we're talking about content and ideas on just what to make and to be, sounds like being natural, being authentic, quit overthinking things. I did want to bring up like your other tweet about keep it stupid simple, which I think is nicer than saying keep it simple stupid.
That's my preference. I prefer if someone's like, keep it simple stupid. What are you doing?
But yeah, keep it stupid simple. Keep it really easy, really, because then it's easier for you to do. It's easier for people to understand. Like it can go a lot farther and done a lot cheaper doing it that way.
And your simple will inevitably evolve over time and it won't look so simple to the person that just started. So I think it's just a win-win-win situation all around. And the reason why I speak more on content and philosophy and mindset is because all the technical information is available.
Yes.
It's there and it's like free. But I think what really makes your mind think about how to maximize the technical information is thinking about this stuff, which is why I was also really happy to see Sarah on your podcast. I think she thinks a lot differently than most of the people in the space. And the way that these new rules and regulations keep coming up every year are keeping us more accountable to think about these people as people, your customers as people, and reinforce better marketing practices, in my opinion. So I'll complain about it in the short term, but long term, I think it's making us better people.
Yeah. No, I think it's a great point. I'll get a little bit, there's a line where it says the tyranny of rhyme forces men to write their finest lines. So it's like restriction does force you to focus on what moves the needle instead of it just being a wild, wild west out there. So Alyssa, as we wrap up, I want to ask everybody this every time is what's one more tip, strategy, thing that's bugging you or that things that people should be doing inside of their retention marketing strategy or tactics that you think of that you feel like is underplay, anything.
Surveys, talk to your customers. I think if you're small enough and you have like a little extra time on the weekends, get on calls with these people. Look into lean customer development. Like if I were doing a brand from scratch and I've never had control over what happens really in a brand, so this is a wish list of things, I'd love to talk to like the most valuable customers and talk through their entire journey, what their life is like, and start content from there, because they're the ones kind of driving a lot of it and you want more of them. So how do you create an environment to attract more of them?
Right. I love that. That's really, really good. Okay. Great. Well, Alyssa, thank you so much for coming on the show. We're going to have a link to one, I think your Twitter, as well as Capture Box in the show notes. But what's the best way that people can get a hold of you?
Twitter, just DM me.
Okay.
I'll say hi.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Well, thank you again so much for coming on the show. And thank you everyone for tuning in. This has been another episode of Subscription Prescription. I'll see you all next week. That's it for today. Thank you for tuning in. Please subscribe so that you can get notified when new episodes come out each week on Tuesdays.